Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new video on my brand new channel, The Crypto Scout. Welcome to it, and let's get straight into the video. First, before talking about anything on this topic, I want to lay down a caveat, which is I just want to say I actually love the Cardano project. I want it to succeed. I believe in it, and more than anything, I actually do like Charles Hoskinson, the CEO of the project. I love him as a libertarian and some of those ideas he has, so I'm going to be somewhat highly critical of him in this video, but I'm also going to end the video in 5 pros or things that Cardano is doing right. But I like to start with the negative and go to the positive. So we're going to start with the first 5 things that I think might cause Cardano to fail, and then I'm going to follow it up with 5 things that might help Cardano succeed. Okay, so let's get straight into it, and I'm going to be sharing a good number of clips from this recent video that was made in London, I believe, and Charles Hoskinson basically speaks, and it just gives you an idea of who the man is, how he thinks, how he operates, and his actual beliefs, I think. I'm not going to be playing the whole thing, but I do recommend watching it if you're investing in Cardano. It's 2 hours long, but you can learn a lot about the project as well as some things about Charles Hoskinson and their goals as a project. So let's just watch the very beginning first before I talk about anything. All right, here we go. He's a cool guy.
Hi, everybody. Okay, everybody a Londoner, or did anybody come here to travel to see me?
So far, I mean, he's acting like he's a comedian or something. He's a cool guy. Everyone likes him, and I mean, he is the CEO of Cardano. There's a lot of people that have invested millions of dollars into his project, so obviously he is, in one way or another, a cool guy. And there should be some more hype. But in the very beginning here, I want to show another clip, kind of showing you a little bit into the insecurities of Charles Hoskinson. So we're going to keep watching for a minute.
Okay, a few people. Let's play the longest route. Anybody from Europe?
This is a boring part. He's just getting to know his audience.
Good show then. Well, first, I'd like to thank the generosity of London School of Economics for hosting us, as well as the Cardano Foundation for putting the event on, in particular Michael Parsons and his crew. Michael's here tonight. I think he's somewhere. Michael, show your hands. Ah, there he is. There. Yeah, there's Michael Parsons, chairman of the Cardano Foundation. Wonderful guy.
So I just want to interject there for a second and clarify that the Cardano project is, in fact, basically being ran by 3 different branches that do different things, like 3 layers of the same cake. So there is the Cardano Foundation, which deals with everything marketing and education based. Anything surrounding marketing and education is going to be coming from the Cardano Foundation. Next is Input Output Hong Kong, or IOHK, which he worked for a long time, as well as other prominent figures within the crypto space. And they do all the programming and development for Cardano. And the last one is called Emergo, which is a Japanese company that I've never heard of. And they're supposed to deal with basically synthesizing and merging these 2 branches. So I'm not sure why they'd need a company to merge what the 2 companies are doing. It seems like you're making a middleman. I don't know. But that's not one of my criticisms, because I don't have enough information to go off of to really criticize how that's working. But if you want to find more information on that, I found a great article here, which is called Cardano, Ethereum, and Neo Killer, or Overpriced. And it does go over some of the benefits as well as criticisms, which I will be listing, but I think they're mostly pretty positive about the project. So there's not a lot of negative things to say about it from this article, other than it might be overpriced for sure. Nonetheless, let's get back to the video.
Okay, so like all my speaking, I didn't prepare anything. So we'll talk extemporaneously. And I thought for a bit, well, the cab ride over, what should I talk about? And I said, oh, well, 3rd generation blockchain, but you guys probably all heard that before, and who cares about that? And we're actually at an economic forum, LSC. So in the spirit of that, I'd actually like to talk about Cardano in the developing world. And I've never actually given this pitch before, so we'll just see where it goes and how it goes. How's that sound? I just hear your enthusiasm and excitement. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, great. All right. Now let me put my...
I'm gonna stop it there again and just say this is a great indicator of how maybe he's a little bit narcissistic to think that he can kind of get away with not really having any kind of a presentation. And I mean, it is nice to be able to talk to your target audience very openly, but this is the first time he's talked about how Cardano is going to affect the third world, and yet he's not really prepared anything specific. So that's a little bit concerning to me personally, because when you talk about these things, you have to take into account a lot of other things going on in the crypto space, such as other projects that are devoted to just that one thing. So by bringing this up for Cardano, you have basically inadvertently entered yourself into a competition with these other projects, which are maybe years ahead of you, such as a Misogo. So yeah, so without watching more of the video, I'm just going to say that is going to be one of my criticisms. So let's go ahead and get into my criticisms, and then we're going to watch some more clips as we go along and talk about those as well. But my first criticism is actually the leadership of Charles Hoskinson. If you don't already know, this might be interesting to you, but he worked on Ethereum somewhat with Vitalik Buterin and Dan Larimer. And it's just interestingly enough, he has worked with both of these groups, one being with Vitalik and one with Dan Larimer, in two different scenarios. He was basically fired or let go from these projects. So Ethereum, he was working on Ethereum, and the team, including Vitalik, at some point decided to let him go. And Dan Larimer, in another situation, which I'm going to show you a clip on right here. Okay, here's the video where Ivan on Tech, who awesome YouTuber, I love the guy. He's going to ask Dan Larimer about what happened with Charles Hoskinson, and watch carefully. Watch every little minute detail of facial expressions and micro expressions and such.
You mentioned in the beginning of our conversation that you and Charles worked before. So how was your relationship with Charles, and what happened afterwards? Why aren't you working together on EOS or on Cardano together? And why did you go your separate ways?
We asked Charles to step down as CEO at the time, and he consented and left Invictus at the time. He's been on several projects since then, Ethereum, and so on. But there were moral reasons for not continuing to work there.
Moral reasons.
And you also claim that Orber's, the proof of stake system, is plagiarized from your Depot's
I wouldn't say
invention.
Plagiarism is quite the right word. The design and architecture of it is very similar in how blocks are allocated into slots. The block producers always switch to the longest chain. What they do is they change the algorithm for selecting the block producers from one of approval voting to one based upon random chance proportional to stake. And they
I want to mention that a lot of people seem to not really love Cardano all that much in the comments there.
Increase the quantity of people that will get scheduled to produce blocks. Those changes, in my opinion, are counterproductive changes based upon the experience of BitShares and Steam. They give the appearance of decentralization without actually decentralizing it. They increase the latency of reaching consensus, and they, due to the wealth distribution being based on the Pareto principle, there'll actually be fewer number of people effectively in control of such a system versus once you have like 21 producers elected, they all have the same influence on block production. Even if one of them has 10 times as many votes as the number 20th, they all have equal weight at the end of the day. But in Cardano, if someone has 10 times as much stake, they could produce 51% of the blocks, even if you have 1,000 block producers, statistically,
Whoa.
they could get 51%, particularly when you narrow it down to take any individual window of time during which someone's waiting for a confirmation.
Valid point.
And that's the challenge that some people have suggested, like Glisk, of just giving one vote for one producer per person. But that would be like running a company and saying each shareholder only gets to vote for one director, rather than having all the shareholders vote on every director. There's precedent in the ways existing systems have worked for hundreds of years that the cryptocurrency community is ignoring, and there's some lessons there that could be learned.
So when you say moral reasons that you couldn't collaborate, was it just different philosophies, or was it just person chemistry that sometimes teams don't work because of different people not having a good collaboration with each other, or was it just different visions? So,
I'm not at liberty to discuss
because people
that.
are interested. Okay, I understand.
Okay.
We
that's
totally
pretty much it,
understand.
guys.
But also when it comes to Cardano, something that I find interesting is this whole functional approach that is built in Haskell, and to my knowledge, they will have a functional programming language that you can write smart contracts in. And one of the biggest issues with smart contracts currently, for example, when we look at Ethereum, is the security. So the argument could be made that with functional programming, you can do more, for example, test-driven development. It's easier to do formal verification of smart contracts and mathematically prove that they have less bugs, they will not end up in some weird state. So how do you see...
So yeah, Ivan just made 2 points that I like, which is, maybe programming Haskell isn't a bad thing. It'll have less bugs, but at the same time, is Cardano making their own programming language, which will be easier than Haskell for their dApps? He doesn't seem to know either.
How do you see these arguments, and is it something that you want to bring to EOS as well, this functional approach to creating smart contracts?
EOS is based on WebAssembly. In theory, any language can be compiled to WebAssembly, which means that you could use the same language that Haskell if you wanted to. In practice, I find that C++...
See what I'm talking about? That's the flexibility. I'm making that argument later in this video, which is that EOS and many other programming cryptocurrencies are much more flexible, like Microsoft versus Apple.
Compiles to more efficient code, which is also a critical component of usability. But you can also program C++ in a functional paradigm and get a lot of the benefits. With the power of template metaprogramming, you can do a lot of checks at compile time for consistency in the code that's produced. Plus, there's just more libraries out there for doing stuff in C++ that's vetted. One of the fatal conceits of people is the belief that you can write perfect code, that you can know in advance and for all time exactly what this thing needs to do, and that you can, regardless of the language, you can prove that it's right. You can only prove things within certain assumptions, and those assumptions might not be valid, or they might not be valid for all time. So with EOS.io, we've taken the approach that...
All right, I recommend you guys check this out yourselves if you want to watch the interview with Dan Larimer, EOS, Cardano, Ethereum, DPoS, Steam It, Crypto Bubble, Future of Crypto. It's on Ivan Tech's channel. Great video. I don't want to watch it too much longer, but earlier you heard him say I'm not going to comment on that, and before that he said they asked him to step down for moral reasons. That seems odd. Like, what is going on? Corruption, or is he taking bribes? Like, what is going on? Like, he's not commenting on it. So there's something going on in the past there that is probably really important, which none of us will get to know probably ever, to be honest. But it'd be interesting if Charles Hoskinson, I would love to interview you. Just clear your name with me. That would be awesome. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so what you can see from that clip right there is Dan Larimer also has some kind of an issue with Charles Hoskinson. What it is, no one's saying. Maybe there's... I'm guessing this. There's just simply non-disclosure agreements signed about this particular schism of ideologies or something. I don't really know. Dan Larimer is also a libertarian, so I think they get along on those particular topics. Charles Hoskinson, also a very prominent and intelligent libertarian, and I am too. So check out my libertarian channel called the Destination Truth. I'll put a link below if you want to check out my other channel and some of the videos and topics I talk about there. But nonetheless, the point here is he's got great experience, right? But he's worked on 2 different projects where, for whatever reason, people didn't want to work with him. Now, if you want, you can dig around for this yourself. I learned this months ago, and I went digging for it in the deep subreddits that are from like 2011, 2012, where you can actually see Vitalik and Hoskinson kind of getting into it and talking about like why he had to leave the project, and Hoskinson was not happy about certain things. And I think at some point, Vitalik basically just said, "Can you just leave it? Like, let it go, man. It's it's said and done. Like, it's over. Like, please just let it go." And it's like, wow, these guys are all now CEOs and doing rather well. They're all doing fine financially and such. But I mean, what I'm getting at here is Charles Hoskinson has a history of not getting along with others. That's important, because whether you're a CEO or not, and no, especially if you're a CEO, from my personal experience, not being a CEO, but knowing some, I know that you have to get along with other people. You have to be able to negotiate, get along with people, being able to network, in other words, and be likable. People need to want to work with you. If you don't get along with other people and people don't want to work with you, the best businesses that you want to partner with are not going to have a hard time finding other clients. Like, they will find someone else. They will let you go. They will stop serving your account, whatever it is. Like, if you're hard to work with, if you're a bad customer or client, partner, etc., like, people don't have to work with you just because you have lots of money. Obviously, someone will work with you. Someone out there will work with you if you have enough money. But I'm just saying, some of the better people might not work with you if they don't feel they have to, and you are that problematic in one way or another. So the leadership of Charles Hoskinson is, again, my number one complaint. Is I call that into question because he is very intelligent, obviously, but he is overconfident. He thinks he can basically just get away with always flying on the seat of his pants, always getting away with just not being super prepared, and just kind of talking about what he wants to talk about and not realizing that there is a grander stage in all things in crypto now. I mean, this is not 2010, 11, or 12. Like, you can't just say whatever's on your mind and not actually concern many people. Many people, including me in the past, actually, for the record, full disclosure, I've sold all of my Cardano back in, I think, December, because it's too high to be realistic. And then when I thought about buying back in, it still seemed too high to me, and it still seems too low, too high even now to buy back in. It's just too popular, so I'm not going to be buying Cardano again for the reasons that I'm discussing now. So the concerns I have with the project, once again, I'm jumping to the conclusion, actually. Sorry, but I'm trying to say my main concerns actually have stopped me from wanting to buy back in. So they might outweigh. It's up to you. Do your own research. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, and this has nothing to do with whether you purchase Cardano or not. This video is supposed to be about whether the Cardano project will fail in the distant future or not. And I think it'll be very successful in the next year or two. But in the long run, I think it might not be successful. So maybe I should have said that in the intro. I apologize, but we're still in the beginning here. So so I've mentioned his leadership style is a little bit, he's flying on the seat of his pants once again. So not a lot of planning all the time. Second, he has issues with other people. He doesn't get along with other people too well. And he doesn't seem to be particularly charismatic, as you can see in this video I just showed you, where he was basically asking the audience for some hype, and he's like, thank you. That tells me that he's not particularly charismatic. I'm going to show you another clip at about an hour and 12 minutes into this video. Let's watch here. All right, let's watch.
Theoretically, a chance that somebody could have built an alternative version of history after sufficiently many blocks. They could have done it because they had a secret blockchain they were mining in their closet, and
Of course, he's talking about the 51% attack risk.
they had enough hash power for it or something like that, So there's always a chance that you can unblind history, but at some point it's like good enough. No, I won't tell that story. That one's too... okay, I won't tell that story. So anyway, that's... see, my PR person, Jane, she's all like, thank God, he's learning. All right, so anyway,
See
that's
what
the
I'm
best
getting
I
at,
can give
guys?
you. That's the best non-answer I can give to your question. Those are the 4 things you can do.
All right, so he's made these types of mistakes in the past where he's shared stories or things that he should not talk about. And, he's still taking the stage, which is fine. Very intelligent people, I think, sometimes do have issues with not knowing what's appropriate or inappropriate to share with a audience, which is very business-minded, because some of these people have invested thousands or, heck, even millions of dollars into your project. So they don't always want to hear you be frank, open, and honest. They kind of just want to be like, all right, tell us why you're going to succeed. Why are you going to make money for us? That's what investors do. They don't care about much other than we give you money and tell us and prove to us how you're going to make us more money off of what we invested in you in the past. So that is just a situation right there where he's openly said his PR person is training him to know what to not talk about, which is good, but it's showing that he's made these types of mistakes in the past. Okay, I'm going to now share one last clip of what I would call a little bit of self-hate. This might take a minute for me to find. Hold on. Okay, so it's the very last minute's worth pretty much in this video. So I've shown you a clip from the beginning, middle, and end. But here we go.
Measure it and see outcomes, and be Darwinian about it and ruthlessly change when necessary. And if you don't like the system I've built, there are other systems, and you can go right to them. And if you don't like the system I built, eventually you'll be able to vote to change it and fire me. I have a habit of getting fired. I'd like to be fired again. It'd be great, because the ones I get fired from tend to do well. Anyway, you've been a great audience. I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was good. You got 3 clips from the video, and you see that you have to watch the video to realize what he talks about is really interesting. But throughout the video, he basically is just telling the world that Cardano is also competing against other projects like Omise Go, which is trying to bank the unbanked. So he definitely is basically talks about that, as well as a number of other things which just are kind of unknown and off topic for Cardano thus far. So it's kind of my second complaint is basically Cardano is, I should say, Charles Hoskinson and Cardano is changing focus too much. So basically, like, what is your end goal? Like, your main competitors to in my opinion, and most of yours probably, is EOS, obviously Ethereum, but so is Neo, Lisk, and some other ones like Qtum and some other ones that are less known. But there's a lot of these projects that are trying to become the Internet 3.0 with smart contracts and optimized for smart contracts. So in my opinion, EOS is currently probably the most likely to succeed. You got to see Dan Larimer himself a minute ago comment on him not being able to work with Charles Hoskinson and unwilling to comment about why, but they don't get along even though they're both libertarians, which are, like, I feel like if you're going to have very important political views and you share those views with someone, that alone should basically set up a potential good friendship. So the fact that they don't get along is actually surprising to me, because I feel like although you might not get along on minute details within a certain ideology, like the majority of things you get along on. So anyways, those are 2 issues, but them, Cardano, and not letting Charles Hoskinson really focus on this one particular topic is just kind of a distraction / a concern, because, I mean, yes, you're making a project that should be able to do just about anything, right? We all realize that, but you should let a DApp built on top of Cardano deal with that. and not have you dealing with it now when it's still in its embryonic phase pretty much. So yeah, that's my second complaint. My third is the competition for Cardano is moving faster than Cardano. Let me show you something I'm talking about. So far, we know about just 2 ICOs that are being built on Cardano. Here's an article you can find on it, and it's very recent, just February 26th, less than 2 weeks ago. And, you know, I am not impressed. Traxia, TMT, and the other one, I mean, Spade, I don't even know how to say that. Spade, I don't know, like Ace of Spades or something. I don't know, but it's for gambling. So, you know, that's interesting too. But here's the thing. Other projects such as EOS is getting insane attention from teams that want to build on EOS. Like I'm involved in the crypto space myself, and I can tell you, trust me, there's a lot of people that are trying to get built on EOS. So when EOS is finally launched in June, or maybe July at the latest, like, you're going to see a stark difference between these two projects. Cardano, hard to program in, which is my next complaint, my fourth. And the competition is soaring, and they're just like, we're going to be as difficult to work with as possible, and we're going to be the best in our own way, but no one really cares. Competition, just taking off. So that's my third complaint. Competition is soaring and moving faster than Cardano. Cardano, you're hamstringing yourself with my fourth complaint. Haskell as a programming language. Haskell is a very difficult programming language. And their argument is that Haskell makes their platform secure because it's hard to use. And so hackers and people with malicious intent or bad actors are not going to bother looking into Cardano just because it's so damn hard, because Haskell is so damn hard. And so literally Charles Hoskinson himself has actually made the claim previously in a video that I watched too long ago to remember what it was called, but he said this is a strength because Cardano is so difficult that, the Haskell programming language is so difficult that Cardano's project will only attract the most intelligent of people, which is why they only hire from Ivy League schools. And I'm going to do a little bit of a jump cut here and cut to about 18 minutes into this video back with Charles Hoskinson, where he's talking about the Haskell programming language and some things that sound great, but I mean, I'm about to address why they also seem concerning to me.
Talk about blockchain tech and smart contracts and these things, but we have to just get used to teaching people. So we said, let's run a pilot course in Athens because we have a very strong base there to get the curriculum right. And then we immediately went to Barbados, which structurally speaking has a remittance culture. It has credit problems. It has banking issues, but we have very strong partnerships there. And right now we have a whole cohort of people in Barbados with partnership with the University of West Indies learning Haskell. First time it's ever been taught ever in the history of the country that a class of this was actually brought in. And one of the creators of Haskell even flew out to Barbados to teach people, Phil Wadler. He's a resident professor in Edinburgh, a wonderful guy. They call him Lambda Man, wears a big lambda like Superman on his shirt.
It's good he can draw in some
So we
humor.
sent him out.
That's good.
And you know what? The next class will probably be done in Ethiopia. That's the next step. We're already in negotiations and conversations with people on the ground. In fact, one of the people doing that's...
All right, I'm going to stop it there and say this is a huge concern because, man, like, yes, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, everyone, for your knowledge, and I am biased towards developers in this area because I believe they're the best in the world because they come from all over the world. So the most intelligent people in the world when it comes to programming move here for a reason. And he's talking about teaching Haskell, which is notorious for being a very difficult programming language, and teaching it for the very first time ever in places like Barbados and soon to be Ethiopia, which, you know, if you're strong enough to look at objective reality without bias, then you'd know that, I mean, Africa is notorious for having a couple standard deviations lower IQ on average. So my point is, are you really attracting the best? In a previous video, he said Haskell will only attract the most bright and intelligent people, and he only wants to hire people from well-known, prominent schools in England, such as Cambridge, for example. I think he said in the video somewhere that he's biased towards hiring from Cambridge. So, yeah, that seems to be a huge weakness in my mind at this point. So that was my fourth. Haskell as a programming language makes it difficult, it makes it unattractive, and most importantly, the biggest complaint having to do with Haskell is these dApps. They're going to have to program in Haskell too, right? I haven't been able to find whether that's a fact or not. Can you build a dApp, distributed application, on Cardano that's not in Haskell? So are you forcing a bunch of people to program in Haskell when most programmers believe in, Occam's razor type philosophy, which is, kind of like go for the most direct, simple approach, which Neo and EOS are both doing, which is allowing people to use more than one programming language. Like Ethereum forces you to use one programming language, and now Cardano is doing the same basically, which is kind of like doing a Microsoft versus Apple approach, where Neo and EOS are basically Microsoft, where like use whatever programming language you want, build dApps. It's going to be an excellent program for everybody basically. And Cardano and somewhat Ethereum as well, although Ethereum might be a lot easier to work on because at least it's not Haskell programming language. But they're saying you have to program this way. So that's a big hamstring as well. That's going to slow down anyone that wants to build on the Cardano project. So yeah, that's a big one actually. Okay, so my very last complaint is that Cardano is going to be a peer-to-peer reviewed process, which is basically saying, oh, we're going to have scientists and intelligent people from all over the world peer review our work before it is launched and actually used. So there won't be nearly as many bugs. My complaint with this is, yeah, that sounds great and all, but that's going to slow everything down even more. Like, are you going to make all your dApps do that too? Are they going to be peer reviewed by professors and, people from academia all over the world? Are you really going to do that? You realize this is starting to sound like the slowest project ever. Like, it doesn't sound smart to me anymore. Like, that sounds like great in concept, but business has to move fast with demands, guys. Like, the business world isn't the same as academia. Like, academia is largely socialistic and somewhat communist. So that's an argument I'm making right now, which is that, hey, that's a slow process. Business typically goes for what's fast and works. Very different philosophies. Okay, guys, that's basically all I have for my 5 major complaints. This video is already long enough, so I'm actually going to do my 5 reasons why Cardano might succeed in a different video, so you can see both of them. Hopefully I'm not overly critical here, and I just want to say that if Charles, if you watch this video, I would love to interview you to clear your name, and if you are willing to come out and say why you weren't able to get along or why you got fired from working on Ethereum and why Dan Larimer didn't want to work with you either, if you want to share that, I think that would actually be to your benefit if you're just open and honest about it. I think you're probably going to be biased and they're not going to talk about it. So, I mean, at least we'd get your side of the story at the very least. But I think it'd be interesting. I think a lot of people actually do want to hear this because a lot of people know that you are hard to work with, and that's a big concern. So anyways, everyone, thank you so much for watching. This is my brand new channel, so please, it would mean a lot to me if you gave me a like and or subscribe to learn some more things in the crypto space. Anyways, that's it for me, guys. Crypto Scout out.